This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hey, Carm Capriato, the Aftermarket Podcast guy. Happy New Year to you. This new start brings new challenges, and we will face them with renewed passion, I believe, and a renewed sense of hope. We're all in this together, no matter what your resolutions for the new year may be. The podcast is also here for you to keep you grounded to a wide range of aftermarket wisdom. I wish you a safe and personally prosperous new year. Let's create ideas together, and let's talk about solving problems. Now, that's what this episode is all about. I'm with my friend Dr. John Passante, CEO of the Organizational Development Group and a legacy aftermarket human resource professional. And also Phil Moore is here, Vice President, Sales and Marketing at Federated Auto Parts. Both have important insight on the power of brainstorming, and the discussion will prove to be relevant with tips for your own brainstorming sessions. Also learn how to apply SWOT analysis and make it your own competitive advantage. Thankful to our sponsors. Please support them. You know, I just heard that Apex 2021 will again have the best and the brightest trainers and another great schedule of technical and management training. This is specifically for shop owners and technicians for you. Stay tuned here for more details. For now, make sure Apex 2021 is on your calendar. Write it down, November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. It's as easy as 123. Shopware's shop management system allows customers to review, approve, and pay for repairs all in one place. 123. Keep your staff and your customers safe while maintaining profits and keeping your customers happy. It may be time for a change. I bet you it is. Learn more at getshopware.com. Hey, you can find my panel's previous episodes and their bios and key talking points for this episode at remarkableresults.biz/E602. Hey, find something new, the collections page on the website. Find them under the resources tab at remarkableresults.biz. You'll really like them. And effective immediately, you'll be able to hear Aftermarket Weekly as a repurposed podcast that includes the virtual shop tour. Find the show where you listen to your podcasts. Just search for Aftermarket Weekly and subscribe. Hey, a warm welcome to Dr. John Passante, CEO of the Organizational Development Group and a legacy automotive aftermarket human resource professional. Hey, John.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Hey, welcome back. You've done a bunch of episodes with me, and I so appreciate our friendship and all the contributions you've made to the show.
Well, thank you. The feeling is mutual, and we both have a passion, as our friend Phil Moore does, for the aftermarket and the people in it, that we keep America on the road safely. That's our mission.
Thank you for introducing Phil for me. Phil Moore, Vice President, Sales and Marketing at Federated Auto Parts. Hello, Phil.
Good afternoon, Carm. Nice to be here. Nice to join my old friend, John. I don't mean old John. I'm just my friend, John.
John will be the first one to admit that he's mature.
Yeah, I'm mature. Yeah.
So look, we're going to talk about the power of brainstorming. It was back in September, I wrote a blog on I write a weekly blog. And John, I love your weekly blogs. Man, I just read them all the time. Thank you for them. And I talked about brainstorming because we had done an episode probably 100 episodes ago in the Academy on brainstorming. And I have to tell you something. I think it's one of the most fun things I've ever participated in anytime I get together, because I've got that God-given ability for ideas just to bubble up. And, brainstorming is important. There's so many things to read about. One of the things that I discovered was Walt Disney says there are 3 types in an ideas factory, 3 stages of thinking: a dreamer, a realist, and a critic. And you need all 3 on your team to make things work. How do we open the gates for creative ideas, John?
And I like what you said, Carm. I mean, first of all, there's nothing more precious than an idea. And, I'm a fan of yours as a friend and as a professional. And your mantra is learn one thing. And I wonder how many people, when they come home at the end of the day, their family says, "What did you learn today?" Because we don't equate learning to working. I think what we have to do is we don't have to do anything, but what I like to see us do is probe our leadership and probe ourselves to say, this may sound basic, Carm, do employees know we want their ideas? Some years ago, the Gallup poll did a survey. This will make your hair turn gray. The United States of America came in like 26th or 27th in the world for the number of ideas we get from our employees. Now, these are folks working every day to make a difference, that know what their profession. And so it starts at the top to say, ideas don't have to generate just from the executive suite or from the vice presidents or the presidents. We want your ideas on how we improve, how we compete better. So it has to be in the water.
I love that. In the fabric, in the water, in the culture.
Yes. It's been proven psychologically that when we stop learning, Carm, we start to die. And I learn every day. And I encourage the people that I know to learn every day, because that's what keeps you. It affects your whole body, your attitude, your motivation. And learning can be fun. And part of learning and part of what we do for a living is share the wisdom that we all have collectively developed and learned over the years. So that's sort of where I'm coming from with this. And the first thing you have to do as a leader is make sure that you don't have a big ego where you say, all the good ideas come from me.
They own them all. They take them and own them. There's nothing like having someone that works for you look up at you and say, well, will I ever get credit for some great idea that I bring to this company?
Yeah, and somebody's been with you 3-4 months to come up with an idea. You've been with her 30 years and you didn't see the idea, right? But that's okay.
But that's why they're here. They're here. We hire them because we want them to contribute. Phil, are we talking crazy here?
Well, guys, I don't think so. I mean, I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to work for some very talented and very the opposite of an ego-driven person. We've always had a thing within our companies where we would sit down a couple times a year in a room, everybody around a table. We had a whiteboard, and we did a round-robin exercise. And whatever the topic was, we went person to person, left to right. You had a turn. You put up an idea, and you went to the next guy, and we would go around the room 2, 3, 4 times. If you wanted to pass, you could pass, and he would come around to you again, and we would do it until we exhausted every idea on that topic, or so we thought. The funny thing about this exercise is some of the best ideas happen in the last 2 or 3 rounds, after people have seen or heard what other people have said. We build on it. It gets the juices flowing. It gets the ideas moving in your head. And I think it's a great exercise, and one that any company should make a common practice.
Well said, Phil. I have been a facilitator for brainstorming sessions within companies, and I have some very simple rules for their meeting. Everybody check their ego and their title at the door. We're all equals. There's no bad ideas. Any idea has to be for the betterment of the company.
And John, you don't criticize. You don't criticize somebody's ideas, if it is a bad idea.
That's correct.
You and I have been on that side of the table where, we've worked together quite extensively in the past, and you're going to get some bad ideas. You welcome them all, especially the unusual, because they tend to get the juices flowing. Like I said before, there's an old saying that I like. I don't know who it's attributed to, but it goes, if you have an apple and I have an apple, we exchange apples, then you and I will still each have one apple. But if you have an idea and I have an idea, we exchange ideas, and both of us have 2 ideas. And not only that, but we have the impetus to go on and grow that and have more ideas.
It's the same idea of a piece of cake, and I am chosen to cut the cake, but the person who I'm cutting it for takes the first piece. I have facilitated SWATs in the past, and what an opportunity to get deep inside, if you will, brainstorm on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I think it is one of the healthiest exercises for our industry to do. For the shop owners that is in my audience, I've encouraged it. We've done shows on it. And to be able to brainstorm or think deep on each of those individual areas of a business is, to me, one of the most ultimate brainstorming things that can be done. Why? Because I think at the end of the day, you take all the bestest ideas, you rank them A, B, C, and then you could build a strategic plan or improvement around all of it.
I agree. And it's interesting, Phil, because some organizations, they'll do the SWOT analysis when there's a serious issue. And again, I encourage, Phil, and I encourage organizations, when the sun's out and you're making your numbers and life is good, that's when you want to brainstorm.
Exactly.
I mean, you want to brainstorm, obviously, when there's challenges too, but it shouldn't be when you have an emergency that you want ideas.
Hey, John, when did our best ideas happen? We were on a roll. We had a lot of great things happening. We were coming up with good ideas for shows. And as we talked about those shows, it just snowballed into more and more and better ideas.
And you gentlemen know this, the setting has to be right. Phil and I, we really want 5-star. We went behind a hotel on a picnic table at a Quality Inn in Lexington, Kentucky, and nobody could find us. And we'd sit out there in the sun 4 or 5 hours, and we would brainstorm.
Hey, Carm here. And coming up, find out where to put your ego and your job title when you start to brainstorm. Hey, Carm here, and I can't say enough about the quality of instructors and the high level of technical and management training that was offered during the recent virtual Apex experience. Now, the great news is that show organizers for Apex 2021 are already hard at work to again assemble the best and the brightest instructors and the most timely and needed training for shop owners and technicians. Watch for a robust schedule of training and product demos on topics such as wheel alignment and ADAS calibrations. Also training on how to be an effective leader, engine performance, diagnostic strategies, controller area networks, and using social media to grow your business. Now, those are just to name a few. With this caliber of training, make sure Apex 2021 is on your calendar November 2nd through the 4th in Las Vegas. And together, let's make 2021 the year of growing sales, profits, and productivity for your business. Listen here for more Apex 2021 training and registration information. Shopware's innovative shop management system will give you back your time and put more money in your pocket. Make the switch today and watch technician efficiency gain 20%, enjoy increased recommended service, and even grow the highest parts profit margins ever with the smallest amount of work. Steve from Ultimate Automotive says, I love that Shopware lets you complete every estimate on the inspection, and we even have a higher ARO, receive more approvals, and have had a significant increase in revenue. With our previous SMS, estimating was limited because it was so time-consuming. This impacted not only what we could sell on each customer's current visit, but also what we would have prepared for following visits. Hey, your peers are happy. Let Shopware work for you. Book a demo at getshopware.com. I love your point, John, about, when the sun shines, let's get creative, because you've all probably been in those meetings when the pressure is on and the performance isn't there and we have to figure out which way the rudder goes. I don't think the best ideas come out. You're always playing defense instead of offense.
Yeah, you guys remember the commercial? You remember the Hummer? They came out with a Hummer, the macho truck, the Hummer. There was a commercial years ago where all these engineers are in this conference room. Their ties are down. Their hair's all messed up. They've been there all day trying to come up with the next edition of the Hummer. The door opens at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. The janitor comes in to clean up the waste baskets. And he's watching what's going on. He looks up. He says, build a small one. And he walks out. I mean, every time I used to see that commercial, I'd start yelling, here's the janitor coming in, and he says, "You're right, make a smaller edition of the Hummer."
Well, that's a great backup to Carm's point, and I like that. If you're desperate, you come up with desperate ideas. If you're trying to really and truly brainstorm, which means to come up with a new and improved way to do it, you don't want to be under the gun. You don't want to have the pressure to someone to say, "Hey guys, we got to fix this tomorrow." That's when you come up with desperate ideas.
And the janitor, he had no skin in the game. He had no pressure. He just comes by, and the first thing off of his head was, build a small one. And genius. It showed so much about leadership. Phil, when I think about brainstorming and involving the team, it builds loyalty and it stimulates people to want to be a player.
Well, it does. It does. And, you feed off each other. A lot of times in those meetings, we had a new appreciation for certain people. You've always got the guy that sits back in the office. He does his job. Nobody ever asks him for input. And you might not realize just how smart that particular guy is. Somebody should have hired the janitor after that, Hummer episode.
Precisely.
But don't limit your base of knowledge to just people Spread it around, get some outside input. John, you and I, we'll go back to that too. We had a lot of times we'd be at a restaurant and something a waiter or waitress said to us spurred an idea and we took it and ran with it.
That's exactly right.
One of the great stories that I think about in doing an SWOT or any kind of brainstorming is, hey team, thanks for being here. We've got this great challenge I'm going to give you all. I want you to look at our company through our competitors' eyes. That's the only rule. You're on the outside looking in. They don't know what goes on in here. They just see it from a distance. How do we look? How do we come across? And what do you think? I mean, I think a lot of times I think about who the competitor always was that I was going up against. And I tell you, Phil, I always had a short list of 3 people that I wanted to be my competitors and 3 that I didn't want to be my competitors. Why? Because those 3 shared my values and went to market the same way. And the other ones were so crazy and off the wall. I didn't even think I could compete because they led with the different things that I led with. And to me, when you bring that to a meeting, in a brainstorming meeting, and again, I'm trying to encourage the listeners here, take some action and go do this stuff. You'll be amazed what you learn.
Given what we're going through right now with the virus, there's more and more Zoom meetings, obviously, to track sales and growth and profits and people issues and organization issues. I hope that as people watch this podcast, that they'll make it part of their venue to have a Zoom meeting and send a notice out and say, we're going to have a Zoom meeting just to talk about ideas. It's a wonderful way to acknowledge people. It's a wonderful way to find out, as Phil said, you have talent you may not be aware of, and you'll discover an awful lot. And it's a morale builder, and it's fun.
In the industry, the service industry, so many coaches encourage the service professional to have these daily and if not weekly toolbox meetings in the shop, certain time each and every day. And they also encourage everyone to bring a new idea to that meeting. And they also encourage a different leader of that meeting each and every day or week. And that brings involvement. And then there was one other great thing is write a word on the wall that describes who we are, and then write an idea up over here. And all of a sudden you start seeing, ideas and brainstormings flourish, and values. Actually, you could look at the wall with all the words, and there's the values. There's the values of the company starting to take shape. So if brainstorming is this great idea, we're talking about involving people in our business.
Something I did years ago, Phil, it's called a buck a day. They thought I was, the president gave me a lot of leeway. He said, okay, John, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. I sent out a notice and I said, the Bucket Man Day is coming, and he'll be in front of the plant Monday morning at 6:30 a.m. And anybody who has an idea, here's the form, put it on all the bulletin boards, write your idea. The Bucket Man Day will take your idea, give you $1. I did that for a week, gave out $300 or $400. First year, we saved over $100,000 in cost reductions, in improvements, because it was reward. It's $1.
Well, you're also listening to that person who
yes.
is doing that job, has stake and skin in the game, and who better knows how to make an improvement than the guy out in that factory running that machine, whatever it may be, or the
yes.
the person yes. out in the shop talking directly to the customer. I mean, those are the people that we need to listen more to.
I was thinking as we were preparing for this meeting about role exchanges or role changes. And I've really never talked about this on the podcast until, John, you got my juices thinking here on this show. And here I am thinking, if I was in a meeting with my team and there's my technicians and service advisors and the bookkeeper, and here's the owner, and, maybe I've got a lube tech guy, and he says, you're the tech, you're the service, and everybody changes their role because everyone has opinion about each other's jobs, right? And everybody gets a chance to talk to the brainstorming idea exchange meeting from a different perspective. Talk about learning. Talk about savings. Yeah.
That's really funny you bring that up. Just last night, my wife and I were watching, we watch Netflix, and we're watching an old series that's no longer on called Blue Bloods. And it's about a police commissioner in New York City.
Yep.
And he has 3 people working for him. And at this point in the show, they cannot get along. They're wondering who's best. I'm over you. I tell you what to do. You listen to me. He called them all into the office and he goes, okay, here's plan B. You're all fired. Now, here's plan A. You do his job, you do her job, and she does your job. And for one day and one day only, they changed responsibilities. And they got a real appreciation for what the other person does. And that's not the direct definition of brainstorming, but it sure is looking at something from another person's perspective. And like you said, Carm, you're looking at your business through your customer's eyes.
John, you may appreciate this. I worked for a guy once who, it never happened when I was working for him, but he was telling me the story about having such a problem in one of his groups or divisions that he brought in his key leadership and he fired them all. That was at 8:00 in the morning. And he said, by 5, I'm going to hire 3 new people. Maybe you're one of them. I don't know. But you have an interview at 10, you have an interview at 1, you have an interview at 3. Go write your resume and we'll talk about your job. And he was able to change the attitude and the direction and everything of that group because they realized that they really lost their jobs, but they had a chance to earn it back.
Phil, as we think about employees, I'll use the example with Phil Moore, who I respect as a friend and as a professional. When we first got together to help plan these TV shows, I knew Phil and he knew me, but that relationship changed. Broadened the relationship. It was mutual respect professionally, but then we were able to widen that relationship to a friendship where we could talk about any issue and no one got upset about anything. You remember, Phil?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We went through a lot of changes together, and there was never a doubt that we were on the same page. Phil, do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I was a customer, and some of the things that you as a vendor were doing, I did not agree with, but that did not, we could put that aside. We could brainstorm about solutions and still go have a cup of coffee or a bourbon that evening and be friends. And then not only that, but build on whatever issue we solved that day by discussing it. So you can separate a friendship, business and a friendship. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you're friends, you can't do business together. If you do it the right way, it can actually be a big asset.
And Phil, I remember the time when we had a major change. And Carm, I come from the school of thought that when there's a major change in an organization, the first thing you do is you make sure your employees are aware. And 1A, rapidly, you tell all your customers. We had a major change. I flew to Lexington to meet Phil at a hotel. Before I could sit in my chair at the restaurant, he had 5 questions for me. I was on my way down to sit down, and Phil, remember Phil? You remember the change? Because I was nervous we were going to lose our customer. And Phil had every valid point of view to challenge what we were doing, Phil. You remember?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Hey, guys, I so loved this. I think we could talk about brainstorming and share stories for an hour. But what I would like to do is I wrote some how-tos down, and I do want our our audience to leave saying, okay, cool guys, you set this all up for me. Well, give me some guidelines. Let me offer a few to you, and then you guys could chime in here when I'm done with the list. Look from outside of our industry if you're going to sit down with some brainstorming ideas and constantly look at the world around you. If any of those ideas work, don't stifle creativity in a brainstorming session. Make it an event. This is a big thing. We're getting together. We're going to do this, but also set a time limit. Don't judge. I think, Phil, you were saying that earlier. The wilder ideas, the better. Get them written down, because you don't want to go out and say, God, Phil said something an hour ago. It was so unbelievable. What was it? And so you've got to almost record that, post-it note it on the wall. Put some ideas together of the why not category. Why not? Who says we can't? If we're going to be years ahead or ideas ahead of our competition, why don't we invent? Let them catch up, and then follow up with ideas. If there's any really good ones and you don't do anything about it, then it was just noise and you just had an exercise that had no value. And that's part of what I call taking action on a great idea.
Well, a couple of points you made kind of sparked some ideas. Be observant. You don't have to take work with you everywhere, but whenever I'm out, I've had some of my best ideas that I could come back to my team and share when I'm at a restaurant. I can recall a waiter saying something to me one time just offhandedly, and I thought, you know what? That's something we need to think about. I can remember being in church and hearing a sermon and saying, I can really turn that into a sales presentation. The theory behind it. So kind of keep your eyes and ears open as you go through the day, and you'll be surprised at, that's kind of brainstorming in reverse. You're letting the world give you ideas as you're out in it. And the other thing, and I'll let John finish up here, but the other thing about do not criticize any idea. One of our better ideas for our company was met with total disdain when it was first brought up, and we put it on the whiteboard, and at some point we couldn't solve the problem, and somebody looked down at the corner and saw this idea. I'm not going to get into detail, and we said, well, wait a minute, what about that? And we talked about it and built on it. Today it is probably one of our best programs that's taken on a life of 6 or 7 years. And it was something that we immediately brushed off and said, that's stupid. So, I encourage people to be open. And like we said before, there's no such thing as a bad idea.
Thanks so much for that, Phil. John, final words.
I want people watching this today, make it clear to the associates that they work with every day. The idea is ideas are welcome 24/7, and make it easy for people to come forward with ideas. Let people know what kind of ideas you're looking for, and that there's no barriers to what you want to hear. I would make it part of an agenda item. I think we've all been in meetings where there's, like Phil just made an example of somebody had an idea and it wasn't popular at the time. It's called groupthink. If I'm in a room meeting with 20 people and 19 of them say to the president, great idea, great idea, great idea, that comes to Passante at the end at the table, and the president says, John, what do you think? I have to have enough comfort in the organization to say I think it's a bad idea. Meanwhile, 19 heads are going to turn to me and go, what? So you have to have that mutual support, that just because it was Phil's or Carm's or the chairman's idea, it's not the word from the mountain above. It's a point of view. And I think sometimes it's a groupthink, all the heads go like this, like the dog in the back of the car, and we don't challenge it enough.
It's such a great point, not to go with the status quo, but speak with what you believe, having self-confidence enough that even if you buck the system, you're not going to fall from grace.
That's right. So it's, again, I got to talk about trust, but it's a trust level to say we can agree to disagree because we all have the same mission to make the organization better.
And the key, Phil, and I know you had something to say here, but it's almost like this. If we agree to do this and there's 10 dissenters out of 20, then you 10 are on. You've got to be on. And if you're not, it kind of, you lose this round, but we're going to do this anyway, and you don't play, you'll be out.
I agree. I mean, it's a team effort, and not all my ideas are going to be accepted. But if I'm listened to with respect, that's all I want.
You'll realize that your turn will come up.
That's
correct.
John.
When you have a really, really good team idea, when at the end, when you're ready to implement it, you don't remember who had the original idea.
That's right, Phil. That's well said.
Excellent point. Thanks, guys, for being here. Dr. John Passante, CEO of the Organizational Development Group and a legacy HR human resource professional in the automotive aftermarket. And Phil Moore, thanks for being here. Your first time here, man. Vice President, Sales and Marketing at Federated Auto Parts. Thanks,
I appreciate you having me. And John, good to be with you again. And I look forward to doing this again sometime. It's fun.
God bless.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time.